So today we're looking at this book, Creative Chordal Harmony for Guitar by Mikko and Tim Miller. And in this book they use a concept they call generic modality compression. So I'm not going to explain how they came up with this or what it is in detail, because I want you, if you like this, I want you to get the book for yourself. It's not very expensive and it's pretty easy to find. But I'll show you what how I kind of use this book right now. To me, it's kind of an extension of the idea of triad coupling or triad pairing or hexitonics. So if you don't know what that is, you should watch my previous videos on hexitonics or any video on that topic. Yeah, so just let me just get right into it. So let's say we're playing in E. We got an E Lydian kind of situation, and you know, we want to be able to do more than just play a chord, right? We want to be able to move around and create harmony. When we see players like Ben Monder and like the contemporary players like Lagerlund and Gilad Hexman, they seem to be able to just kind of create shapes without any problem. So this is a great book for developing that kind of thing. So so let's say we're in E major, and hexitonics or triad coupling would be, for example, E and F sharp major triads, right? Those two triads. So let's just see what it sounds like. An E major triad over an E pedal and F sharp, right? Let's say I play descending. E, F sharp, E, F sharp. Right, so what we've created is a 6-note scale, right? So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But we're playing it as 2 voicings instead of a scale, right? So hopefully you are aware of this concept. Now, this sound is it's great in a way, but it's not what we're looking for. I remember when I was kind of new to jazz improv, and I saw those players, I knew a major 7 chord, right? But they seemed to be able to do anything, like move around. It was a mystery to me, how are they able to do that? And this would be one way, but it's not what we're looking for. It's a very specific sound, and it's great, right? But it doesn't sound like something you would play in a jazz situation. All right, now, in this concept in this book is based on the idea that you don't need the root. The root is the bass, right? So it's redundant. So can we find an hexitonic scale without the root? Which is kind of strange, right? Because we're so used to playing a scale over a chord based on that root. So if I think of an E major 7, I think of some kind of E scale. But here we're looking for a hexitonic scale that doesn't have the root. So if we change the root, the E, to a D sharp, we get this instead. Instead of E, we get a G sharp minor triad. So we're still just regular hexitonics, right? Regular triad pairing. So instead of E and F sharp, we get G sharp minor and F sharp. If I play that with just adding the bass notes, not. It's pretty straightforward, right? Nothing is weird about this. It's just like regular major 7 voicings. But just, I mean, it's a, just listen to the difference. Before we had this, now we have this. Right, so that's something I can use. It also sounds like a chord and a passing chord. So it gives you that kind of feeling too. You could also kind of experiment with just soloing and throwing in these chords in your solo. Like... Right, so all of a sudden it sounds kind of like something Lagerlund or those guys would be playing. And there's also a difference between using chord voicings when you're soloing as opposed to using comping. This is not a lesson on comping. That's an entirely different topic. We're trying to create hip sounds here, as it were. So it's still not super sophisticated because you notice that all the voices are moving in the same direction, right? They're all descending. Now, okay, so we have this 6-note scale, right? The question is, can you come up with other voicings than a triad? Right? And yes, you can, and that's what this concept is about. So first of all, what is a triad? To me, a triad is major, minor, or augmented or diminished, right? That's a triad to me, like a major triad, minor, augmented, or diminished. So major, like 2/3 basically. So a sus voicing to me is not a triad. I don't know if other people have different interpretation of what the word triad means, but to me that's what a triad is. It's not just any 3 notes, but there's also something called shell voicings, which to be honest, I'm not sure what that means. I must have overslept in that day in class when we talked about shell voicings. But what we're looking for is 3-note voicings that don't have to be a triad. So if we take again these 2 triads that we had a G sharp minor and F sharp major. If I take this F sharp major and I lower the C sharp to a B, I get a very nice Lydian kind of sound, right? So I'm not thinking about the bass note here, I'm thinking about this kind of shell voicing, I guess. Now, that means we have 3 notes. What are the remaining notes from that hexatonic scale that are missing? Well, it's these 3. A sus voicing. So instead of this F sharp to G sharp minor, we have this F sharp sus something. Because if I change the C sharp to a B here, I have to change the B to a C sharp here. If you're following me. And now what happened? We created a counterpoint, or maybe not counterpoint, but we created a, what do you call it? I can't remember the term right now, but the voices are moving in different directions. So this is going down, and this is going up. Which is very sophisticated. So if I do this whole thing I did before, but instead with these two voicings I get this. So you notice it's no longer moving in the same direction. The melody, we've created a more moving harmony, which is more ambiguous. It's not as clear. It's not as what's the word I'm looking for? We started with this, right? And now we have this. Think when I'm doing this, which is really great, right? So that means that I'm kind of expanding my vocabulary, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for more ways of creating this Lydian sound, so we have more yeah, it's just expanding vocabulary. So I'm just gonna experiment with these voicings and show you what it sounds like. Yeah, so that's another thing. There's another chapter in the book where they cover how many possibilities there are to play these notes, like how many ways of attacking them. You could go or you can do the opposite, right? So there also be the possibility to play them as lines, right? So like this one. There it is. So imagine I do that in different octaves. Or the opposite. So we're entering the territory of modern players. To my ear, this kind of playing sounds like, more Adam Rogers type. Certain players who seem to kind of avoid the traditional bebop sound, and if you're looking to step outside of that kind of jazz idiom and you want a more modern type sound, this is definitely the book for you. I should mention that now I'm just using this concept over one static chord. In the way the book is designed, you do it over Stella by Starlight. So in the end of the book, Mikko explains how he came up with this concept, and he has names for all these different possibilities of chords or triads or shell voicings, what do you want to call them, and he explains how he came up with it. And then there's this all the possible combinations, and so if you're into that kind of stuff like theory, this is definitely a book for you. So yeah, the way the book is designed, you do it over Stella by Starlight. So that's my critique of the book, perhaps, is that's a little bit too much for me anyway, because I need to spend time with every chord by itself first before I start doing this over changes. But so there's like different etudes of all these combinations over Stella by Starlight. So imagine if you go through all that, your knowledge of the fretboard would expand tremendously, right? And then we haven't even touched on open triads, and then playing them as lines, all the different permutations. Tons of stuff in here, and there's more. There's yeah, different ways of attacking the notes, different ways you can play scales according to the system, closed voicing to open voicing, etc., etc. So a lifetime of practice in this book for sure. Now, just also let's look at some more advanced tonality. So altered, let's say we have altered, E altered, the good old Jimi Hendrix chord. So what are the top notes? Well, it is actually a fourth voicing. So remember the major third in an altered scale is actually a lowered or a flattened fourth. So that's a fourth voicing. So we have three notes from the E altered scale. What are the notes missing from the altered scale if we leave out the E? There should be three notes left, right? Well, it would be these ones, which is also a fourth voicing in second inversion. Am I saying that right? I think so. Yes. Now this is a great E altered chord. So then you need to figure out the inversions of those. So let's say before, the only thing you knew on an altered chord was to play this. Now all of a sudden you have all these options. I'm just playing the inversions of these two shell voicings and adding some melody perhaps. Okay. Pretty crazy. I like just as a side note, some of my students they're confused about this chord. This altered chord could also be some kind of a funk blues kind of thing, right? Because in blues the minor third and the major third kind of work together. So if you have a situation where you have, that's not altered, right? That's some kind of blues. I'm talking about now when you're doing this, an altered modal situation. Kind of if you're in Wayne Shorter tune or something, and you want more than just one voicing, right? This is exactly what I'm talking about. So for me, especially developing more options when it comes to altered chords and stuff, this book has been great in just these kind of last weeks that I've been working on it. So strongly recommend this book. It's not for the beginner, but yeah, if you're like me, you like exploring theory and how to apply it in a practical situation, this book is perfect. And also remember to check out the players. Tim Miller, if you haven't heard him, check him out. Amazing guitar player. It will blow you away for sure. He's got a few records out, and he's got some lessons online. Some of it you can find for free, and he has this very interesting way of playing arpeggios and stuff that I've never seen anybody else do anything like that. Mick Goodrick, of course, is great and legend teacher, but you should also check out his music. He's overrated as a player, I think, because he's so known for his teaching material. But like I've heard him first time with this on a Steve Swallow record, I think. He also, I think, recorded with Pat Metheny and others. Yeah, and thank you so much to my Patreons for supporting me, because that enables me to purchase books like these. And yeah, that was it for this lesson. I shall see you next time.